Well, all right, we're live. I hope you can hear me. Good evening from Japan. Namaste. You know, in the Tantric tradition, Namaste, Anjali, Anjali Mudra. This is one mudra. Śiva and Śakti coming together. Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. Welcome to the group. So I don't know, I just wanted to come on and say hi and see if there was anybody that wanted to get into a conversation about this Kundalini Shakti, the goddess. Someone was asking in the group earlier, how do I activate Kundalini? Where do I start? It's a big question. You know, there are some guides in the group, 5 of them. One of them has an article called 3 Kundalinis, explaining exactly what Kundalini is according to the tradition anyway, the tradition called Tantric Yoga or Classical Tantra. And they say in that tradition that a gajillion years ago, before anything like this reality existed, before we could imagine anything, label anything, that there existed not but unbounded, limitless, infinite something that we call God or Source, nature. And that God, out of what they say was a great desire to become the original non-conditioned love, to become, invested itself with limitation and capacity in order that it become, in order that it do so. And so the point became a line, became a plane, became all of the dimensions that we'll call reality now. Source issued forth force. God became a goddess, knowingly, willfully, actively began to birth reality. The 3 faces of the goddess force, knowledge, will, volition, went forward. Mother Shakti, Mother Nature. I am your puppet, Mama. And she went forth. And she created all of that we call reality, and all of that we call reality congealed into these elements, these physical elements, earth, air, water, and fire, bound by the Akasha, Yoda's force, right? The force of Source, of course. Bound it all together, permeating it, until it finally evolved one day into this human condition that we're all enjoying today. And so they say, as above, so below. Thy kingdom come, on earth as it is in heaven. So they say, we are children of the divine. Beautiful origin story. But if it's so, as above, so below, then that life force is flowing through us. Her name is Kundalini, Shakti. The goddess has thousands of names in the tradition, just like the god has thousands of names. It's an animist tradition. Everything is a deity, everything is a primal resonance, everything is a frequency. And the Akasha, permeating all of this and binding it all together, we too can reach out through the dimensions in every direction, all 10 directions with all 20 senses, and tap that Akasha anytime. How do we activate that? We are activated already. How do you activate your chakras? Piercing the knots of consciousness, sending that energy through the central channel until it comes into the 3rd eye. In holy matrimony, Anjali, Śiva and Śakti united. Great marriage. And when they marry, she never goes down to flirt with lower self-identification again. It's a done deal. The knots of consciousness have been pierced. Yeah, that's what that means, to activate that. So how do you activate? How do you burst through those knots? Not through pranayamic pressure. You don't want to force that stuff open. You can't force it open with a breath anyway. What are you going to do? Do this bastrika, right, and just kind of open up your intelligence like that? No, it's not going to happen. Hey, where is everybody? Let's see. Something's going wrong with the comments. I don't see anybody here, which is kind of weird. 5 minutes in and 30,000 people. Somebody must be here, even a voyeur. What's going on? Hey, I do see somebody. Hi, Amy. Nice to see you. Yeah, I was just talking about what is Kundalini because I noticed this comment in the group. Somebody is asking about how to activate Kundalini. How do you activate all of that? And so we got onto the pranayama, and we don't want to activate it through pranayama because, you know, these 5 winds, the 5 pranas, you've got the upward moving prana and the downward moving prana and the penetrating prana and this prana and that prana, and pranayama is actually a system. But if you go and you try to force something like the hatha yogis, then sometimes you can make some nuisance in the psychophysical system too. And so we don't want to do that, not too much force, but rather slowly and gently, with a great love. Yeah, you know, I'm seeing some reactions to the video, but I'm not seeing anybody in the comments except Amy. Hi. And this is very odd. Let me see if I can see it on another screen. Hold on. No, okay. All right, good. So, yeah, this question of how to activate Kundalini. If the 3 faces of the goddess are knowledge, will, and volition, then we want to establish a baseline, right? We want to establish what we're really talking about before we talk about activations. If we're talking about the chakras, the plexuses of energy, then we want to know what we're talking about actually before we talk about activating these centers, right? Because, you know, you've got the gastric plexus, and this is a nerve center, and you've got the heart plexus and the throat plexus, and all of these plexuses, all of these energy centers. How do you want to work through the body first? You know, in the tantric tradition, we say that there are various skillful means of approaching the reality. And one of the gentlest of the means, one of the most fundamental of the means, is called the individual means. It's called the physical means, and you work through your body, and that means good nutrition. That means making your body healthy. That means preparing the vehicle, right, to be able to carry you healthily through life. Good sleep, good hydration, exercise, right? And then you want to have the mindset steady and stable, right? Low stress. You want to have your emotions regulated, right? The basic level stuff first. How do you activate Kundalini? What's Kundalini, right? Knowledge, will, volition, until it rises up and pierces the eye and pierces the crown and boom, all the way up to Dvadashanta and beyond. Are you ready for that? The question's not how do I activate Kundalini. Kundalini is already activated. How do you grow? How do you develop? How do you deepen your insight? That's why the first video in the Guide 1 there is no practice at all required, right? Guide 1, Video 1. Nothing at all to do except let the ignorance fall away. The ignorance about who you are, what you are in reality, right? We don't know that, but we feel that. We feel an inner spiritual rebellion against the paradigms that we live in. We feel it. The soul spark cries out, I'm free. Why don't you let me be free? Of course we let you be free. All you need to do is recognize your own essence, nature, and be that. Right? That's what all the sages say. Right? Just be what you are. Do what you do. Bas. That's it. It's finished. Right? You are innocent. Completely innocent. That's what the Christ said, right? Just innocent kids. That's what we are. Children of the divine, as above, so below. The life force running through us. So what is to activate? It's not what is to activate, it's what's to remember. Right? What's to recognize your essence, nature, and live as that. Free. In the garden once again. Right? Well, I got one good morning from you, Amy. I guess you're doing coffee and stuff. It's 7:30 there on the East Coast. But I think Europe should be awake with me right now. And New Zealand and Australia should be awake with me right now. Indonesia, India. Where is everybody in this hustling and bustling group? How do I begin to activate Kundalini? Begin by taking care of your body. Begin by taking care of your mind, about your personal experience. My personal experience, Chang, when I was 17 years old, I had so many existential questions. I wanted to know what was God and what was the meaning of life and what it means to be a man in this world, what it means to be alive in this world. And so I took myself out of the US, started traveling around the world, stopped off in the Middle East for a couple of years, went to the Orient for a couple of years, and I was up the Himalayas by the time I was 24 or so, when I met an old man, a sage of the Agora Nath lineage of classical Tantra. And he was very kind and compassionate and took me under his wing and introduced me to the lineage, initiated me into the lineage of Tantric Yoga. And I stayed with him for 20 years. And that's how I began, and that's how I understood what it is to be human, right? And how to reconcile these dual conflicting urges that a human being has. The one urge to humanity, to enjoy my humanness, and the other urge to transcend my humanness and to go back to the proverbial home, so to speak, right? The so-called enlightenment. These two urges, we all have them, and they have to be Anjali, they have to be reconciled, our non-conditionedness and our humanity, because we have these pulls, and if we're forever pushed and pulled, and we don't know why we're pushed and pulled, then we're always going to feel something like off balance, right? We're always going to lean one way or the other. And so even Buddha encouraged, right? Don't lean to either side too much or you're going to get lost, right? But find the middle way, right? Anjali, namaste. Sure, the middle way is good. But that's a little bit of my experience. Hey, Shell Bell, enjoy your lunch. You're making good stuff these days. Nice to see your name here. Yeah, so it's this activation, right? How do I begin to activate? How do I begin to get healthy, right? How do I begin to make my body healthy? With a commitment, right? With a desire. That's what they say. The original source had this great desire to become this unconditional love. It just rose up out of this nothingness. It was the original impetus, the original inspiration to be. What is your natural inspiration? Because that's life calling out to you, from within you. That is you speaking to you, life speaking as you. That's the original activation, recognizing that call, recognizing that spark as it hums at the center. So the Tibetans say, Om Mani Padme Hum. It just hums at the center. It's calling to you. You listen to the voice. People talk about listening to their guides and catching the sign. Listen to your own inner voice. People talk about the inner guru. Of course, the inner guru is well alive, right? Talk about that. Activate that. Listen to that, because that's your true will. That's what the magicians say, right? Hear the voice of your own true will, and let thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven, right? As above, so below. That's the Kybalion. That's Jesus Christ. That's Hermeticism. That's every time-tested, time-honored tradition will tell you the same thing. You are children of the divine. We are children of the divine. We are already activated. The only problem is something has been forgotten because of something called samskara, right? These impressions, these psychic impressions that just pull the veils over your eyes and make you lose your recognition of your essential nature. How does that happen? Sensory input. Since the day we were born, since we started to crawl, since we started putting stuff in our mouth, and mommy said this, and school said this, and culture said this, and all of a sudden I'm overwhelmed. And all of this stuff is just caking and impressing on my psyche, on my subtle bodies, on my energy bodies, and I am being made into the image of man. When I was a god, when I was born, I looked out at creation and I said, wow, because I didn't have a word yet. But now you got a lot of words, right? Now we got a lot of words. And other sages said that in the beginning was only the Word, and that Word was God, and it still is and ever will be, right? So how can you use your word to effect, to create your autonomy, your authority, your innate freedom to be? That's activation, right? Understand who you are, and you will be activated. And you can use the word to activate yourself. It's not a pranayamic thing. Shakti Pat means grace from on high, not from a human being who might shed a little bit of insight through a well-planted word if the word is used properly, if the transmission gets through, because every word is a frequency and every word is a resonance, and all of these resonances will align, right? Because when you hear it spoken correctly, it will ring inside your heart like a bell, and when it starts ringing, you know, this is being activated. My memory is being activated. I hope the one who asked this question is listening to this, because it's a big question, right? How do I activate Kundalini? What is Kundalini? Yeah. You're still here. What does your own true will want to say? What are you speaking to yourself from your own ground of being, from your own ground of freedom? That's your purpose in life. If you have this question, what is Kundalini? How do I activate Kundalini? How do I make it rise? How do I wake up to the knowledge of my essence nature? Well, that's your purpose. You are activated. That is your purpose, to know that. You must find that now and give your entire life to that question, because the question has risen up in you, right? I didn't give you the question, somebody else gave you that question, right? Or that question rose very naturally. Maybe you were born with that question. Everybody is born with this. Everybody is born with the soul spark. Everybody is born with recognition of who they are. It's not taken from you. It's not a conspiracy, but the sensory input, how we look out into the world with our 20 senses and receive the input, and it all goes into the well, right? It all goes into the collective consciousness. It's all there as big egregores now, right? Huge symbols that we associate with, orient on, identify with, and thereby create our own identities according to, right? And it's by creating identities according to what we're orienting on that we get lost. And so the sages say, come back to still point. Be very quiet. It's all inside. As soon as you start speaking words and going hither and thither and taking one step out from still point, you get lost. What to do? I wake up in the middle of the night, I have to go to the bathroom, so I do have to take one step from still point at some point, don't I? Okay, so now we talk about skillful engagement. You're still trying to figure out who you are, John? What your purpose is? There's a voice inside of you saying something to you, if you can just hear it, right? Something that's been with you for a very, very long time. I'm still trying to figure out what my purpose is. Yes, there is a purpose to figure out. Absolutely. Dive into that. What's that? Because it's much deeper than guitar player. It's much deeper than fisherman or businessman or, right? What's my purpose? Your purpose is to know yourself. Absolutely. Everybody's purpose is to know themselves. Yeah, we have this thing about karma, of course. We have this thing about the karma that I've been bringing through life after life after life. We have this thing called rananubandhana, which is the karmic relationships, but these are small things, right? The one karma that you have is the push to transcend this humanity, right? We're always transcending. We're always climbing up the mountains to get to the next peak, to get to the next plateau. We're always doing that push. Even this question, I'm still trying to figure it out. I'm still climbing the mountain. We've got this incessant urge to climb the mountain. If you didn't have this urge to climb the mountain, you'd just be sitting back watching Netflix satisfied, right? There's a lot of people out there just sitting back watching Netflix satisfied, right? But that's not you, John, right? You're on a mission. You're on a mission to find something because that's pushing you to find who you are, that essential freedom at your core, right? You can. It takes a radical surrender to what you already know, a radical acceptance, a radical self-acceptance, a radical honesty to accept what you know, right? And take authority of the 5 acts. The 5 acts being creation and destruction and preservation and concealment and revelation, because it's all up to you, isn't it? Right? It's all up to you what you create, what you destroy, what you maintain, the status quo, right? What you hide and what you show. It's all up to you, right? You can acknowledge that much. Some people can't even acknowledge that. They won't take responsibilities for their own ways and their own lives. It's absolutely necessary if you would activate, right? Do you want to be activated? Somebody asked that question today. That question just stuck with me. It stuck with me so hard when I looked at it. It was a big red question, right? How do I activate Kundalini? You are already activated, right? That you are activated makes you ask that question. How do I activate? So how do I activate further? Somebody in the group is also looking for their psychic powers again. They want to know. You've got 20 senses, but he's only focused on 7 or 8. He's only focused on the clairs, the clairsentience, the clair this, the clair that. What do you want to do with that? Because it's the only question that a free man or free woman need to ask themselves. What do I want to do with that? Right? If I were clairsentient, what would I want to do with that? Would I want to raise a family and live life happily ever after? Or would I want to stop a war in Ukraine or Palestine? Or would I want to run for government or just get rich? Or what do I want to do? It's a big question. What do you want to do with your freedom? It's the only question that a self-recognizant human being needs to ask. What do I want to create or destroy or maintain or conceal or reveal in this moment? Right? That's Ramdas. In this moment, right here, right now. That's Patanjali. He says now. Now is when the teachings of yoga. Now is the teacher of yoga. Absolutely, you've been activated for many years. Of course you are. Yeah, it's a slow process, and you're going to come back again and do it again, if the stories are true. These stories we tell ourselves, eh, John? These great narratives by which we create our entire reality, eh? Huge, huge. The alchemists tell us that we need to rectify these stories, right? Visita interiora terre, rectificando invenis occultum lapidum. Right? Visit the interior of the earth, and through rectification only will you uncover the philosopher's stone, right? Rectificando is the stuff. That is what you mix inside the alchemical cauldron. People call this shadow work. You look it in the eye and you rectify the story. That was Jesus going out into the desert, if that story was true. Matthew said he was tempted. I don't think Matthew got that story right. Right? Because when he says that, the devil says, hey man, if you're all that, why don't you turn these stones into bread? And Jesus said, hey man, but man doesn't live by bread alone. I think he was talking about the philosopher's stone though. I think he got the master's teachings a bit wrong there in the translation, but what do I know? I wasn't there, and this is just a story, right, John? Right? What stories we tell ourselves. All these philosophies are stories. All of these words that I'm speaking right now, just weaving another intricate story. I've been activated for 30 years. I am activated now. I am that I am. I am what I don't know. I am what I know. What do I know? I don't know anything. Jai Bolenat, Lord of Innocence. I am innocent. I am absolutely innocent. Completely. Yeah, sure, Chang. What's up? A beautiful person who had a lot of energy, a lot of sexual energy. You felt extremely magnetic. Is that normal? That comes with activating Kundalini? Or you fell in love? Falling in love is completely normal. Falling in lust is also completely normal. This magnetism, or you want to call it sexual attraction or whatever it is, this is completely normal. These are forces. In the beginning was source, and source generated force, and force went out to create reality. right? The physicists will tell you so, the philosophers will tell you so. Forces exist. Forces exist between us, and forces exist on their own as well. Yeah, this is very normal and very natural. We don't have to think metaphysically about this, but if we want to think metaphysically about this and go refer to the Kybalion or go refer to any of the philosophies of the energy body, then we can talk about polarity, and we can talk about movement, and we can talk about flow, right? But the relationships between two human beings are very, very normal, and of course it all has to do with Kundalini, because Kundalini is the goddess, because she is the life force, because she is Mother Nature. It has nothing to do with something coiled up inside my own sacrum or wherever they say it's coiled up in. What's coiled up? Because I'm alive here just as I'm alive here, just as I'm alive here, right? It's moving all through me, all the time. But something called awareness is knotted up, right? Something called awareness may be stuck. I may be stuck at a particular juncture of my story. Where does my storyline need rectification? Right? What am I stuck on? The sages say that there are certain obstacles, right? They call it arishad. Certain obstacles, certain demons of mind that get in the way of our awareness. One of the demons, Chang, is called lust. Right? We get lost in that shit. We totally get lost because it just feels so good, right? Yeah, of course. We love what we love. And the stuff that makes good, the stuff that makes bliss, the stuff that makes excitement. But you know, even the stuff that makes sad, even the stuff that makes angry, even the stuff that makes bleh, also gets us attached. It's what we're attaching to all the time. And so the wisdom traditions say non-attachment, right? Dispassion, the middle way, not going too far to either side. So it's not that lust is bad, it's just that lust is so attractive, right? I want. But when I've satisfied my lust, then what happens? Right? I fall asleep. I lose my interest. I become something total because my story changes. Do you see how powerful your story is, Chang? That story by which you live your life, that story is activating you. What story do you want to tell yourself? Because you can tell yourself any story at all. In the tradition, we call this view, right? What view do you want to align with? What's your world view? Because that's activating you. What is Kundalini? She is the life force, Mother Nature. What does the witch worship, right? She worships the Divine Mother. The Divine Mother. The Divine Mother is everything. She is everything. Because the Divine Father is still. He is the source. But she is the force. She is the waking force. She is the enlivening force, the invigorated force. She is the force, right? She is Yoda's force. She is the whole stuff. And she's much bigger than me. And she's much bigger than you. And she's much bigger than we. How do I activate that? I don't activate that. She activates that. She activates that. That's grace, right? Grace to fall on thee. Fall into grace. That's what Adyashanti says. Fall into grace. Just surrender into it. And it's yours. You don't have to look for it. It's yours. But how do I relax into that? All of the sages say, don't chase it hither and thither. It's already there. Right? All of the sages say it's right inside. So what do we kids do? We run hither and thither looking for it. Where is it? In this book, or with this teacher, or with this program, or with this guy, or in this group, or where is it? And we ask all these questions. Shh. Can we just be quiet for a moment? And so we meditate. We try to still these fluctuations, right? That's what Patanjali says, right? Still the mind, because now is the teacher of yoga. Now is yoga. And the state of stilled mind is yoga. But we can't do that because it's always moving, always fluctuating, and it's not our fault either, right? We are so overactivated. We are so overstimulated. We are so hyperstimulated, right? It's all we can do to be quiet. Can you use sexual energy to make your light stronger? The question before that is, what's light, right? Do I have a light? Do I have a light? Why does a boxer refrain from sexual dalliance, 6 weeks or 2 months or 3 months before a fight? Can I use that energy to increase my light? What's light? Yeah, you can use it to increase your strength. You can use it to fix your mindset. You can use semen retention and even sexual retention for the girl too. Holding on to that force is something, sure, but some sages say it'll kill you too, right? We're talking about the 5 vayus here. We're talking about pranayama in such a way, the movement of energy in such a way, the upward movement, the downward movement, the penetrating movement, the movement of all of this energy can do something to your energy body, but there's a question that comes before that, Chang, what do you want to do with that, right? If you made your light strong according to this vision that you have of strong light, what would you do with that light? Would you be the light of the world? Would you shine a light in the wilderness for all the lost souls out there? Would you heal the world? 500 million monks joining hands as we speak, praying for the world. What's it doing for the Ukraine? What's it doing for Palestine? What's it doing for the starving in Ethiopia? What's it doing for the gangs in LA? What's it doing? There's this balance, man. Or sister, I don't know what a Chang is. Right? But there's this balance. And even Jesus Christ only ever got 49% of the vote on his best day. Right? There's always this balance of black and white, yin and yang, white and black, right? Each containing the seed of the other. It can be no other way. So what would you do with your light? What if I told you that to make your light stronger, you had to make your black stronger too? Right? What would you do with that? And so the tradition has the right-hand path and the left-hand path. No, I'm not going to get into that too deeply. They say that there are 2 sides that you can focus on. Can you use sexual energy to make your light stronger? You can make your love stronger with that, right? With a good partner, you could discover love. Wow, that's a big one. And a lot of people will stop right there, because what else is the meaning of life but joy, right? And an expression of my freedom. What else do I want to do with this life, really? Somebody will go deeply into the mystic. Somebody will go deeply into the magic because somebody's got a real idea, right? I'm not going to give you your real idea. You have to have your real idea. Nice to meet you, John. Nice to meet you. Enjoy your hike. Love to see you at Satsanga. Ciao, brother. So, activation, right? We are activated. Can we stabilize this activation? Can we awaken and abide in awakened awareness? This is a question too. Right? What was she asking earlier? What was she saying? Yeah, Tiffany, you were asking if being put on medication can make your Kundalini awakening more intense. Your physiology will become more intense. Your psychology will become more intense. Your emotions will become more intense. Will the subtle body be affected by the psychophysical system? Sure, of course, right? But there's an essence nature that can't be touched by any of this. There's an essence nature behind all of this that is being caked on top of it. All of this is just extraneous story, right? And it's purifying this body that the sages recommend on our way to this so-called full activation, right? Purification practices. The different medicines have different balancing properties. Sometimes a medicine is really, really good, but sometimes it's totally unbalancing as well. And so it's good to get, proper dosages as well. Can it make your reactions more intense? Absolutely, right? There's a lot of confusion sometimes between what is emotional reaction, what is intellectualization, and what is spiritual awakening. There's some differences here. The words are different, They have different meanings. But we can convince ourselves of absolutely anything, right? We can tell ourselves any story at all and absolutely believe it. Yeah, you take care too, Chang. All right. Absolutely. Sister. Yeah, please. All right. You have a great day wherever you are. Maybe you'll come to Satsanga next weekend. Sunday. Sunday, Japan time, 7 a.m. Looking forward to seeing you all. All right. What else is going interesting? Somebody asks, is it possible to have a second spiritual Kundalini awakening? Spiritual or Kundalini awakening? Is it possible to awaken more than once? We all get glimpses. We get glimpses of our essential nature. Sometimes it's trauma-induced. Sometimes it comes through a dream. Sometimes it comes, just walking down the street and we get a glimpse. We feel a déjà vu. I know something. Sometimes we just have this gut feeling. I know. I don't know what I know, and I don't know how I know. I just know, right? We get these glimpses of essence nature. We get these glimpses of reality, but it's the impressions over our eyes. So yeah, the answer to the question, can you have multiple spiritual awakenings or Kundalini awakenings? Of course you can. Many times, many times, many times. The veils get pulled back and put back, peeled back, put back. Many times until you learn how to keep them open. Right? Until that insight deepens. So, and that's why we have the practices. We have intentional practices, the time-honored, time-tested wisdom traditions, whether they be classical Tantra, whether they be Kabbalah, whether they be Taoist practices or Rastafarian practices or whatever the practices are, they're all designed for the same thing, and that is to awaken the awareness. Awaken the awareness, because as much as that awareness is awake, is as much as we clue to our essential nature, our freedom. Freedom. It's a big word, freedom. And when you've got that, then you really start waking up. You know. It's all you, mama. It's all you. And so the tenses and the grammar starts changing as well. We won't go there right now. You can definitely handle it, sister. No, when you're in your darkest moment, Tiffany, you are not messing up your ascension. Absolutely not. Sometimes there's a pause, and sometimes you hit a plateau, and sometimes you even go back into the valley again, but it's always up and down on an upward trajectory. Nothing is guaranteed as much as evolution. Nothing is guaranteed as much as forward momentum. Right? We can say that time is an illusion. That's common go-to. But look, my body ages. But look, the rent comes due. Right? There is a forward momentum coming. There is an evolution of technology. There is growth. Growth is a constant, Tiffany. Growth is always happening. So no matter what happens, you slip into a dark night of the soul, or whatever it is, you lose faith, the veils come crashing down again. It doesn't matter. It's okay. One step forward. Be confident in that, right? Because if anything, God is great, right? If anything, Mother Nature knows how to take care of her children. And just like any mother for her children, all she really wants is the best for you. So all you really have to do is say, hey, Mama, keep me safe at your bosom. Nourish me, right? Guide me, right? What mother is going to refuse you? What father is going to refuse you? Yeah, there's some weird people out there, of course, but we're talking people. We're not talking divine. We're not talking nature. Nature. Yeah, everything exists in nature too. Sure, chaos, good, bad, all of these words. But for all intents and purposes, loving parents want their children to be self-regulated, autonomous individuals who know how to take care of themselves and skillfully engage with reality, of course, right? Just like so, as above, so below. Thy kingdom come, on earth as it is in heaven. Amen. Om Namah Shivaya. Reverence, revered Lord. That is guaranteed, Tiffany. Yeah? Okay. So that's that. I don't see any questions coming in. I don't see any interaction here. The comment thing seems to be broken on one side. So I'll leave it there. Nice to meet you all. Hope you're enjoying the group. Reach out anytime on the posts or in the chat rooms or by messenger. I'm always here. Right? Hope you can come to Satsanga on Sunday. Om Namah Shivaya. Jai Ma. Jai Kundalini Shakti. Jai Ma. Ciao for now.